Welcome back to the Real Estate Girls podcast. We're your hosts, Heather.
Casey.
Whether you're buying, selling, or just obsessed with the market, we're here to bring you expert advice, behind the scenes stories, and a dose of realness.
So, first, we're going to go over a quick market recap to keep you up to date on the latest trends. Then, we're going to answer a real estate question that isn't commonly known. And then, we're going to wrap up this episode with a motivational quote to keep you, motivated for the week ahead. So, on June 18th, the Federal Reserve left interest rates unchanged. Obviously, this has been all over the news. This is the fourth consecutive time they have left interest rates unchanged. There's not a lot of people that are happy about this.
Yeah.
But I think what the Fed is indicating is they're trying to look and see, what's happening with the tariffs, the economic conditions. They don't know. They like to be certain. And there's a lot of uncertainty going on out there. And so obviously, they have the federal funds rate that we've talked about on previous podcasts. That is the rate at which banks, give each other these short-term loans overnight to meet the reserve requirements. They left this, between 4.25 to 4.5. So, obviously that affects interest rates. And with that said, obviously not the best news, but they still are predicting to have 2 rate cuts this year. So I'm really hoping that happens. You have some head economists that are thinking that maybe September will be the first rate cut. So we'll see what happens. What do you think about this, Heather?
Yeah, I think it's interesting that they're holding steady. I understand the uncertainty. And this is not my opinion, but I did watch a video the other day where he is an analyst and he was saying that for us to see 3% rates again, the economy would have to be terrible, where nothing's moving, where the economy needs a boost. And I thought that was pretty interesting. So I don't know how much they'll cut rates coming up, but we'll see what happens.
Yeah, I mean, when we saw 3% or below, I mean, we were COVID.
COVID
The
times.
economy was tanking. No one was working. And
no one was working.
I don't know if we'll ever get back to that. I mean, that was a crazy market and I had a lot of fun in that market. But
Yeah.
I think if we can get under 5, I think the real estate market will explode.
Yeah.
So, hopefully we'll get some good news. This is the 4th time in a row where they've left it unchanged. I think Powell and Trump have kind of this struggle going on. I don't think they really like each other too much. So hopefully they can work things out. And because I think it'll be great for everyone.
Yeah, I agree. I think 2017, maybe 2016, 2017, I think interest rates were around like 4.5%, 5%, and I feel like that's comfortable.
Absolutely.
But prices were a little lower.
So this is the data based on the latest CPAR, the association that we are associated with for May of 2025, is comparing the market to May of 2024. And so the median sale price is $334,100. It's down only 0.3% year over year. So prices have remained steady overall if you're looking at May of 2024.
Right. In April, looking at April market stats, average price was around $325,100. So actually that's come up just a smidgen, but still pretty steady.
Yeah. And, I always like to tell the sellers, if I have a listing, if you're priced above that, it's probably, going to be priced what a lot of people cannot afford that.
Right.
If you're at $400,000, $500,000, $600,000 house, this is saying, the median sale price is around $334,000. So it's a really good indication of what people can afford in this market.
Yeah.
So you just have to be a little bit more patient if you are priced, higher than that.
Yep. Total sales volume, 219 million, down 15.4%. From last year, from May of last year. This is a big drop and reflects fewer transactions happening overall, not necessarily lower prices. This is something to watch when paired with closed sales.
Right. So, we had 539 sales in the month of May. That's down 11% from May of 2024. There's just less transactions getting to the closing table. I had one yesterday fall through, and it's gut-wrenching. I think the longer that I'm in this industry, when it happened, it was a huge deal, and it's still gut-wrenching. Like when you get that text or the phone call that it's, we're going to send over a cancel release. I think that's really a hard part of the job, is then going back to the seller and explaining to them what happened. They were in their financing period, so the buyer's getting their EMD back,
Yeah.
and we have to start over. And you just have to hit the ground running with marketing again and reach out to everyone hey, this is back on the market. Like,
Yeah.
let's get it under contract and sold as soon as possible. And so, yeah, I mean, I see a lot of deals falling apart.
Yeah, I had one last month that fell apart actually 3 days before closing. I think we talked about this one, but we ended up getting it back under contract the next week. And then the buyer, we were under contract for more, and it ended up being a better deal. The buyer had a sweet baby on the way. That home was the only home the seller had ever owned. So just
Wow.
her knowing that it was a young family with a
Awesome.
new baby on the way, it actually turned out to be, a beautiful thing. So if a deal falls through, I feel like you just, there may be something better around the corner.
There might
Don't let it get you down.
Absolutely. There might be a light at the end of the tunnel,
Yeah.
especially in that case, the family's benefiting and then the seller, they're netting more. So it all worked out.
Yeah, it
And
all works
in,
out
in this case,
sometimes.
it's a younger couple and they also have a baby that is the seller. So, they are military. So,
Yeah.
we'll try our best. It's in Titus Park. So we'll see how it
Oh, yeah.
goes. So active inventory, how many active listings do we have?
So active inventory, we're at 4,108 homes on the market. That's as of May 2025. April 2025, the month before, we were at 3,925. I checked the hot sheet this morning, and I think we were right around 3,900 again. But that's up 13.2% from May 2024, so May of last year, which is a pretty big increase from May of last year, but I still think that there's pressure on sellers to price it right.
Absolutely.
Um,
There's so much inventory.
yep,
Buyers have, a variety of homes to pick from. And
yep,
so price accordingly and have your house stand out. That's a good way to have it stand out.
yes,
Average days on market, we're at 88 days. This is from May of 2025. So we're up 11.4% from May of 2024. So 88 days on market. Last month, how many days on market were we?
95 days on market.
95. So we're down from last month to 88 days. But I mean, this is kind of, if you talk to seasoned realtors, which you've been in it, I mean, you're going on 20 years. This is kind of average,
Yeah.
right, for the market.
Yeah, I may have told you this too before, but there was a very successful agent in our market. And when I got into real estate, he used to have a sign because 88 days on market was very average. And actually, if it sold in 88 days, that was a quick sale. But he used to have a sign that said, from list to sell in 88 days, give me a call. And I remember him being like, he is killing it back then.
Marketing.
Yeah, marketing. But
It's all about knowing the numbers and educating sellers.
yeah.
I mean, I'll have sellers that are like, hope to get multiple offers first week on the market.
Yeah.
And I'm like,
Let's bring it down to earth a little
yeah.
bit.
Okay, well, this is the average days on market. You have a $600,000 listing. I am hopeful. I obviously would love for that to happen,
Yeah.
but realistically, it's probably not going to happen. And so
Yeah.
setting those expectations up front will really help you in the long run.
Yeah.
So the takeaways, buyers, you've got more to choose from and more time to decide, but don't expect major price drops across the board just yet.
Yeah, be realistic. Prices aren't surging downward. So whenever you're making an offer, definitely you negotiate, but also be realistic with the seller because they have a bottom line that they're looking at. Sellers, be prepared for longer market times and price strategies. Today's buyers are taking their time and comparing options. So there's a lot to choose from, high inventory. So buyers are looking around.
I had an agent call me the other day on one of my listings, and she said, listen, it's at the top of their list. I've shown them like 15 homes. And so I think that's different from what we experienced a few years back. We weren't showing as many homes because there was limited inventory.
That's very true.
It was a seller's market. But now, agents are showing upwards of 15 plus homes. I mean, obviously that was a great phone call. I'm still waiting on that offer. But, buyers are just more picky and they
Yeah.
want to see what is out there and what they can get for their money.
Yeah.
And so let's switch gears a little bit and talk about condos. Obviously, we live and work in Panama City. Panama City Beach is a big part of our real estate market. We have over 100 different condoplexes that spread across a 27-mile beachfront area here on Panama City Beach. So of those, 57 are identified as high-rise condominium buildings. What constitutes as a high-rise condo? Now, if you're 7 to 10 stories or higher or more, basically 75 feet above the lowest level of fire department vehicle access, you are considered a high-rise condo.
Yeah.
And so are you showing any condos or what is your experience with condos,
Yeah,
Heather?
I've been showing condos as of late. I honestly just feel like as of late, a lot of people are kind of getting more active in the market,
Mm-hmm.
especially with investment properties. I know we talked about it slowing down a little bit with investment buyers and short-term rentals. It's just the way the market is. But as of late, I've been showing condos a lot. So some fun things and some fun stories that I've encountered. I was telling you I was showing a condo the other day. And I couldn't get the gate to open no matter how many times I put the code in. I had messaged the listing agent, and then no response. Finally, I had to go around the back side and like go in through a different gate where the car came out. So the out gate, the car was coming out. I had to like swoop in through that side.
Oh,
And then
gosh.
finally he texted me back. He's like, I'm so sorry. All the gates are broken. But that's just some of the fun things that like you encounter, I think, as a realtor when
Yeah.
you're trying to show.
You have to adapt to a changing situation.
Yeah.
And I learned that pretty quickly showing condos. I feel like it was something that I was lacking, like just experience doing it early on because I just felt like single family homes or something on this side was a lot easier.
Yeah.
But just showing condos, you definitely have to be prepared for any and everything. Sometimes it's like mission impossible. If my experience when I'm showing condos, be prepared, have your codes to all of the units, but that doesn't
Yes.
necessarily know that they're the right codes. I don't know how many times, I'll be at a condo and I'm given the wrong code because you have to think most of these condos are short-term rentals, okay? Every time a vacationer comes in and checks out, they're giving the next vacationer a new code.
Yeah.
And so sometimes when you're communicating with the listing agent and then that communication between the short-term property manager, there's some sort of breakdown in communication where a wrong code is given.
Yes.
And so it's you have to kind of be able to laugh it off and just adapt to a changing situation. And if you can't get in, call the listing agent. If you can't get a hold of them, we're going to the next one.
Yeah.
So if you are a listing agent, make sure that those codes are correct.
Yes,
because that could
please.
be your opportunity to sell that condo. And if we can't get in to look at it, more than likely,
It's
we're
off
not
the
coming
list.
back.
Yeah. And
There's so much inventory on the beach.
yeah.
I had
Absolutely.
one where I was given the code. It was right. I was like, awesome, it's right. I opened up. There is a guy with his shirt off in his underwear on the couch staring at me. And, we have stand your ground here in Florida. So that's
Yeah.
what's going through my head. I think he was just as shocked as I was, but I just apologized emphatically. And I was like, I'm so sorry, sir. So what happened there is I was told it was vacant, but really there was another miscommunication where it was
Yeah.
not. So we walked in on this family, just chilling. I
Enjoying
mean, he
their
was just,
vacation.
out there in all his glory. And luckily the clients that are with, they laughed and I laughed and we
Yeah.
just move on to the next one. And
Yeah.
you can't stress about it. I mean, it's going to happen.
Yeah, for sure.
Don't wear heels,
Yeah.
especially with condos. Like I will wear heels if I'm showing a couple of homes around, but condos do not wear heels. I had one at Lake Town Wharf. It's like 22 stories or something. We had a showing. I was showing 4 or 5 in there. There's so much inventory in there. Lake Town Wharf is highly desirable just because you have 4 or 5 pools. You have a private access where Pineapple Willie's is to the beach.
Yeah.
You have a gym. You have restaurants. I mean, there's a lot going on there. And then you have a beautiful lake view.
Yeah.
But I was showing 4 or 5 in there. And I showed one on the 5th floor. And then the next one was like on the 17th floor. And the elevator broke down.
Yeah. Oh gosh.
And this was like July of last year. I had heels on. It was hot. And I was hoping my buyer would be like, we'll just skip it. Nope.
No,
He
we're
was,
climbing.
he was, he was like the stair master. Like, you know what the stair master is? This is what was him, like going up these stairs. And it was a humbling experience because I wasn't in as good a shape as I thought. So
Yeah.
the time I got to like the 17th floor, I was lightheaded. And you had vacationers pulling up huge coolers up these stairs, But we got through it and had a good
Nice.
laugh, and things just happen like that.
Yeah, yeah. Talking about tips for realtors, so make sure that the
Yeah.
codes are right. Maybe verify them.
Yeah.
I've been on the other side of that where the property manager gave me the wrong code, and I'm just frantic trying to find a new code. But also with detached single family homes, this is Florida. It's hot. It's summertime,
so
busiest
hot.
season. Maybe make sure that the AC is running and electricity is on.
Absolutely. There is nothing worse than showing a house and it is hotter on the inside than it is on the outside.
Yeah.
Because as a listing agent, and obviously we're transaction brokers, but even if I'm showing a house to a buyer, you want them to stay in that house for as long as possible.
Yeah.
And if it's night, I was driving to this podcast this morning. It was like 9 a.m. It was 90 degrees already.
Yeah.
So can you imagine how hot it would be
Yeah.
at noon or early afternoon? And you want that experience to go well. You don't want the house to smell musty. If there's no, airflow, sometimes the house will still smell musty.
Absolutely.
And you don't want to be sweating when you're taking in this home.
Yeah.
So if you have a Nest thermostat, you can do it from your phone. That's awesome. Crank it down to 70
Yeah.
for a showing. Or, there's been times where for sellers, it's a vacant listing. I'll run over, crank down the AC, turn on all the lights. You want to make the showing, go as smoothly as possible.
Yeah, absolutely.
What about, have you shown homes before where you cannot find the lockbox?
Yes, I have climbing over bushes
Yes.
and trying to find it. I had, so I've been on the other side of that one too, where my seller did not want the lockbox on the front door. And so I had to put it on a water spigot on the side of the house. But
Is it just ugly? They didn't?
They didn't want it to scratch the door because they had just had it
That makes
painted.
sense.
But they do sell those like lockbox buffers. But at the time I didn't have one, so I put it on the water spigot. But it wasn't bad, Every time, every agent that showed it, I apologize. I am so sorry, but this is why I have it there. But yeah,
I've climbed through like sprinklers that are actively going on. I've sometimes they're hidden, and you're like digging through bushes and you're in heels and you're getting all your stuff, you get dirty and it's just, if you're showing multiple homes, you want it to go as seamless as possible. And when you're looking for 15 minutes, what I do is we have the super lot boxes that, obviously realtors and people that pay for, inspectors, appraisers, they can access it through their phone, but it is kind of ugly. So I'll put it on the side, have the pictures done, video, and then after that's done, I'll move it to the front door.
That's a good idea.
So that's what I generally do. Most of the time I do. Sometimes I forget, but that's just a quick tip that would help us all out. The last thing we want to do is pick up our phone. Where is this key located?
Yeah.
So anyways, on to the next. We always, like to answer a real estate question and that isn't commonly known. So the question today is a seller required to maintain the property in its current condition throughout the transaction process in Florida?
Yes, a seller is required to maintain the property in its current condition as is on an as-is contract. There's actually a clause in the contract. So unless the contract states otherwise, the seller does have to maintain its condition. So before closing, you can't take out all of the appliances. You can't leave the grass high and not cut it. You have to keep it in that as-is state. In the contract, it actually states that if it's not kept in its as-is condition, then 125% must be escrow to bring it back to its as-is condition. And that's on the as-is contract, unless it's stated otherwise.
Absolutely. I think I get this a lot, and I have to remind sellers, the biggest thing is probably the grass, right? And, the last thing you want to do is go through a final walkthrough and the grass is up to your knees. It's just not a good look. But even throughout that transaction process, you have to maintain it. And even so, even if you're not under contract, maintain it. Because if your house is up for sale, you want the exterior to catch someone's eye. And if that grass is overgrown, if the flower bed's a hot mess, if you have weeds growing out of the pavers, that person's going to think, if the exterior looks like this, what does the interior look like?
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
our sign is the one that's in that yard.
Mhm.
So realtors think about this. If you are trying to sell a house and the grass is overgrown, what are you saying to potential sellers? You're telling them, I don't want to use her. Like, what is she? She's not
Yeah,
even checking
she's
on
not
this
maintained.
home.
Yeah.
But I think it's a big thing. Even if you have a pool, keep keep the maintenance up on the pool. I have ran into where sellers will completely shut off the electricity.
Oh, I know.
And it was like, okay, well, number one, they have to be on for inspections, but
Mhm.
number two, you have to keep the electricity on. Definitely keep it on. I know even on final walkthroughs, which we always recommend, even if I'm representing a buyer that's buying sight unseen or they're out of state and they cannot attend the final walkthrough, I will do it for them. I will flush the toilets. I will make sure the water works.
Yeah.
I will, inspect the house, make sure nothing's damaged. It's really important. I know when I first got my real estate license, one of my first transactions, it was my husband and I, we bought a rental. We have a couple of rentals and we got a really good deal on one. And we were doing a final walkthrough, which he really didn't want to do a final walkthrough. I was like, we're doing this final walkthrough. We showed up and the brand new stove they had replaced with a damaged stove. The glass was all broken in
Oh my
it.
gosh.
And he was pretty upset. Like he was ready to walk away from the deal.
Yeah.
But obviously, I believe, I don't think we got a new stove, but we were compensated for a new one.
Yeah.
But it's just super important to do a final walkthrough and you can't switch out things. You can't, not run the air and not do these things, maintain the property. And I know, even in the transaction process, this is a 30, 45 day period. It's not that long,
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, and it could cost you in the long run.
Yeah.
It could
For
cost
sure.
you in the long run. A buyer, especially in this market, is picky.
Mhm.
And if you're not maintaining that property, they're like, you know what? It doesn't look as good as it did 2 weeks ago. I'm going to walk.
Yeah.
So keep that in mind. Maintain the property. So we like to end our show with a motivational quote to get you through the week.
Success is built on details no one sees and diligence no one talks about. Anonymous. That couldn't be more true when it comes to title agents. Behind every smooth real estate closing is a title professional working tirelessly, researching records, clearing clouds, coordinating documents, and protecting everyone involved. Their work is rarely seen, but absolutely essential. Here's to the quiet professionals who make the hard work look easy.
Absolutely. If you do not know what a title agent is, we're actually going to have one on our show on the next episode. So
Yes.
stay tuned. Her name is Sarah Hess, and she's one of the top title agents in our area. And I truly believe you're only as strong as the people you surround yourself with. So personally, my success is reliant on excellent title agents such as Sarah Hess. We had Corey Brookins on, a home inspector. We've had great appraisers on, so lenders on.
Lenders, yeah.
And so when you have this team of very hardworking, professional people that have been in the business for years and years that know what they're doing, that is a reflection on you if you're recommending these people.
Right.
And so we know Sarah both personally and professionally, and through her experience as a lawyer and title agent, her insight, reliability, and professionalism has been invaluable in navigating even the most complex transactions. So stay tuned for that episode. I think it'll be quite interesting.
I think
and
so too.
Especially if you have no idea what a title agent does or what Sarah does.
Or why you need one.
Right.
Yeah.
So we'll delve into that and stay tuned.
Yeah. Thanks for joining us on today's episode of the Real Estate Girls podcast, where real estate meets real talk. We hope you're walking away with valuable insights, a few laughs, and confidence to navigate the next real estate move.
And don't forget to subscribe, leave a review, follow us on social media for behind the scenes content, upcoming episodes, and expert tips you don't want to miss. This is real advice, real insights. We are the Real Estate Girls. Drop us a comment and we'll talk to you soon.
Thank you.
Thanks.